This is a map on the government website showing a list of Native American Indian boarding schools. 1892. Some of them might be a little bit prior, but most of them are pretty much around that time. But notice something. Do you notice something that you should notice? Where's the schools in this area? Notice all the schools are over here and up here. I also want you to notice the total amount of schools that they list is 25. 25 Indian boarding schools. All right, that's a good number. But they never did list the Tallahassee Manual Labor School in the Indian Territory with nothing but black folks in it. 1891. So I had to ask ChatGPT, what are all the historical black Indian boarding schools? And it gave me a list of 1 through 23. 23 black Indian, freedmen, whatever, boarding schools. And 25 other schools. Now, I got more curious. When were these schools open compared to the other ones? And how come all the black ones are in this area? Well, have we forgot history? They fought all the Indian wars over here. Geechee Wars, Pequot Wars, Geechee Wars, Chickamauga Wars, Cherokee Wars, Powhatans. I think they may have had a war. Many different ones. It was all over here. And all that Indian removal and treaties was done all over here. And the removal removed people from here to here and from here to here. But there is no Indian boarding schools down here except Freedmen boarding schools. So I said, hey, ChatGPT, give me a list of those $5 Indian boarding schools that opened up from their time, from when they opened up. 1879 is one of the earliest. 1884, 84, 1902, 1890, 80, 71, 93, 91, 92, 91, 90, 93, 98, 98. Only 2 of them are in 71 and 79. Most of them are 1980s to 90s. Okay? Keep that in mind. Well, let's take a look at some dates of the black Indian schools being open. 1850, 1843, 1880, 1870, 1880, 78, 1892, 1874, 1880, 1870s. Freedmen boarding schools. 1870, 1870s, 1875, 1890, 1870s. 1870s, 70s, 80s, 98, 1908, 1843, 1850, 1874, and I even saw one right here that says the Freedmen's Bureau boarding schools was 1865. First of all, Freedmen's Bureau had boarding schools in 1865? You mean right at the tail end of when slavery was ended? How does that work? And how come these schools aren't listed down here? Now you may say, well, they probably didn't get funded by the government, and this is a government site, right? Well, on the BIA.gov, and I haven't looked up all of them, some schools are listed, like Tallahassee. And it says in here that yes, it was government funded. That section is for showing if it was funded by the federal government. So the federal government funded one of the first missions in 1850 in the Creek Nation, which they don't really list on their website. They say, hey, it later became exclusively a freedmen boarding school in 1881 because what they try to do is play games. Like right here. Now, this isn't a government website. This is somebody who said they're a historian, and they're doing a piece on freedmen schools, Indian schools, okay? And they show other ones on a map in Oklahoma that aren't listed on that other website from the government that shows the Indian border schools way over there on the west and in the north. But one thing I find funny is that same story. One thing they try to say is, hey, Spencer Academy was built in 1842 for the Choctaw Boys after the Civil War, right? And it says the school reopened and added a nearby hill and whatever to educate Choctaw freedmen. So they're saying, hey, this school was here to educate normal natives, but we changed it and started adding in, Choctaw freedmen in there, even though this school isn't really listed amongst those other ones, the normal native schools. See, this is Spencer Academy. It's not listed here. Now, just because it's not listed here doesn't mean that it wasn't there, because again, even the BIA government knows that Tallahassee existed. So whoever came up with this map and didn't list Tallahassee had an agenda. And in many cases, they all have agendas. Because how come you didn't know about Freedmen boarding schools until likely now? Just like me. But we have heard of these fake looking photos of what they show, even in the government archives of these schools. And even these schools, which are their earliest photos, aren't until the 1880s with a question mark. And really, I think I question the whole damn thing. And I doubt it, because they had the ability to get good photographs and label them. Like this one, full of nothing but black lookership people in Tallahassee Manual Labor School in the beautiful Indian Territory in 1891. I'm just getting in closer so you can read the beautiful Indian Territory illustrated below. So let's paint this picture. You do all this fighting of Indians over this side. You come down west after the 1803 Louisiana Purchase to finally get into Indian Territory that you wasn't in before until after 1803. They was only over here, right? And then when you finally get here, you make a bunch of treaties with these folks because you couldn't beat them in all those wars. And you make them go west to Oklahoma. You didn't send them all throughout here. You send them to Oklahoma. But at the same time, during this time, you started up Freedmen boarding schools, Indian boarding schools all around that area. All in Oklahoma, all throughout here. And as the same time you were starting these, you were planning to start these because these didn't come until later. How do they get Indian boarding schools later than we? And how come they get them, but you was fighting these people? How come you didn't start it until you get over there? How come you're not telling people about them until you get over there, I should say? You started them down here first. And even this photograph they tried to use says it's from it don't have a date on this photograph because they're trying to portray some type of imagery to prove that it was a $5 fake school before it became a freedman school. So here you got 1842, when they say the camera didn't really get to America until around 1839. Now, trust me, I believe the camera was here prior to then slightly, but this is the numbers. I'm going to go with their numbers. Especially when they try to produce dumbass photos like this with everybody looking all kind of damn ways. Now, why would all these people be looking different ass ways if you just didn't doctor this photo? It literally looks like whose hand is on his shoulder. You don't see his arm kind of lifted up. It literally looks like they had the Photoshop hands. They put a bunch of people who had taken normal portraits and put them all together. That's what this looked like. It looked like that photo was taken somewhere else. This photo was taken somewhere else. A lot of these photos are their portrait photos combined into a major photo to look like this. In my opinion, I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. Because I've seen these people doctor photos and history books. Not photos, I'm sorry, illustrations. As far back as to the 1500s. I've seen many books, this was 1822, to some shit like this, and this end up being the one on the National Parks and Services government site as displaying who the people are. And stuff like this, where the French drew the Indians like this in books from the 15 and 1600s, and then they do this in the translation later. So it's not like they don't know how to, and haven't been doing, doctoring of books and doctoring of images for the longest time. But now to see them not even show the boarding schools or talk about them mostly shows not only erasure, but propaganda as really, and many other things. These people be playing. I'm tired of finding all this stuff, but not really. It's kind of fun. I love it.